That's
Jeffrey, let me ask you, do you belong to any organizations?
No. United Church of Christ.
You don't belong to any organizations. Don't you belong to the Republican Party?
The Republican Party. You're right. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an organization, right?
Okay. Right.
Does that make your disconnect your brain from disconnect your brain from being impartial or from being able to decide if things on merit because you're a member of the Republican Party?
Don, if you're a judge, the whole point of the job, no matter who you are, is that you're supposed to be interpreting the Constitution. You're not supposed to be using your ethnic background, your racial background, your religious background, whatever.
Case.
Yeah.
Come on.
So,
Jeffrey,
I'm sorry?
Go ahead, Angela.
Go ahead.
Jeffrey,
go ahead.
So just for starters, because I think this is where we often kind of get led astray in these discussions. Number one, this is not a constitutional law case, right? This is about whether or not Trump University defrauded its students. And I think that we need to separate those two issues, number one. Let's not conflate
It's about the law.
Second of all, yes, it is about the law, but you said the Constitution. So I just want to be clear on what we're actually talking about here. It's not a constitutional law case. Nevertheless, some of us in this country, Jeffrey, don't have a choice about whether or not to be active on issues that impact our everyday lives vis-a-vis civil rights. So him being a member of the Hispanic National Bar Association and you all throwing it out here as a talking point is laughable to me as a member of the National Bar Association because I'm black. Those organizations were stood up because the American Bar Association didn't accept our kind at some point. So if they are activists, because they are protecting the rights of people who look different from you, then so be it. But that does not mean that a judge of color cannot be impartial and fair in determining whether or not someone violated the law or someone defrauded a student.
Okay, Jeffrey, as the President of the United States, if Donald Trump were elected, and this just came to me, if Donald Trump were elected President of the United States, he would take an oath, right, to serve the American people, correct?
Right. Right.
Okay. So as he's a Republican, right?
Right.
He is white, right?
Yeah, but who cares?
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm getting to that. So then, as a white Republican male, does that mean that he cannot serve all of America, Hispanics, blacks, and so on, because he is a white president? Because he has taken an oath. So in the same vein, I'm asking is if Judge Curiel took an oath as an attorney with a Juris Doctorate to serve and to protect the Constitution and the laws of the United States, what makes you think he is any different than Donald Trump taking an oath as the possible president of the United States?
Only because he has shown this propensity to belong to organizations that are about his ethnicity and be active in them. And Donald Trump, in this particular case,
but this is reverse. This is reverse engineering. This is reverse engineering.
Let Matt go ahead.
Jeffrey, I would have been very sympathetic to this argument had it been the first thing Donald Trump said, or had it come around on day 2 or day 3 or day 4. You are piecing together a very sort of logical and I think compelling argument that's clearly reverse engineered. It's what you say after everything else has failed.
Go ahead, Jeffrey.
No, he said he's Mexican, i.e. Latino.
I mean, that's different than saying.
What does that mean? What does that mean in his ability? So, Jeffrey, I guess my question, my concern, frankly, is if he can write off the fact that this judge can or cannot be impartial based on his ethnicity and based on the fact that he has Mexican parents, and he is a Mexican-American, what difference does it make? Why would someone who is running for president...
Angela, if Donald Trump had on day 1 said, I am concerned about this judge because I think he's involved with some leftist organizations. I think that he's not going to be fair. Had he said that, I think it's a different story. But he didn't say that.
That's not what he said.
He said because he's Mexican. I think that's the problem.
Yeah, okay, so listen.
Matt, I agree with you on that point, but that also is just a lie. The Hispanic National Bar Association is not a leftist organization, and neither is La Raza. The Lawyers Association
Here's what La Raza says.
under the umbrella of
La Raza Raza issued a statement, and they said, La Raza, here's what they is. La Raza is a legal group. They said about themselves. San Diego La Raza Lawyers Association is made up of lawyers, judges, law students, and other professionals who work with lawyers in a professional capacity. Our membership of about 300 individuals is not monolithic, consisting of conservatives, liberals, Republicans, Democrats, and Latinos and non-Latinos alike.
But had Trump framed this as an activist judge, and that this is a case about liberal activism, that might have been true, it might have been false, but it wouldn't have been racist. But he said because the judge is Mexican, he can't be fair. That, I think, is, as Paul Ryan said, pretty textbook.
I think... So, Don, the one thing that, I appreciate about these conversations is normally you allow us to kind of shed the talking points. So if we're shedding the talking points for a minute, I want to acknowledge the fact that in this moment, I am seeing white privilege. And I'm saying that because I, for the life of me, can't understand why people would say that he's an activist judge because he participates in organizations that ensure parity in the legal system for lawyers, for law students, for judges who look like him. That does not make him an activist judge. That's just not true. So I'm saying there are these organizations that are stood up for engineers, for lawyers, for MBAs, because we have not ordinarily had access.
Right.
How's this how's that white privilege? How's that white privilege though? That's what I'd like to know.
What I'm hearing from I'm going to tell you, Matt, what I'm hearing from you and frankly from Jeffrey, what your response was like, oh, this argument would have worked if they would have brought it up initially instead of reverse engineering it. And I hear your point. What I'm saying is that argument is still false, but you all saying that it's an activist. I'm getting ready to tell you. So I know we can be defensive about it or we can try to shed some of it so we can listen, but part of it is when you are in a position of privilege and power where you've never had issues of accessing certain trades, certain professions, you don't have to have these organizations that are based on providing women opportunity, gay folks opportunity, or people of color. And those are the associations that he's a part of. That does not make him an activist judge. What you're using right now is a white privilege argument. You don't understand because you don't have that need.
I think what she's saying is that you're looking at it. This is what I think she's saying, and you guys can respond. And let's not be defensive about it. We're having a conversation.
Yeah.
Why would I be defensive about
No, I'm saying all of us. I'm not
privilege.
But come on. So I think what she's saying is that looking through it as a lens of someone who has typically never been discriminated against, is that that's the lens that you're looking at America through, and America is not that way for everyone.
Don, I would respond that my friend Angela is looking at this through the lens of liberal privilege, and liberal privilege is exactly how she described white privilege, except you substitute the word liberal. That unlike conservatives, liberals don't get discriminated against because they are pretty dominant at least they have been for decades. They're pretty dominant in the political system. They're pretty dominant in the world of the law. They're pretty dominant in academia. They're certainly dominant at the upper levels of my church, of my denomination, which is the same as President Obama's. So I would suggest.
But she said white privilege. So do you think that whites? Hang on. Let me get the question out before you answer it.
Yes.
Are you saying that aren't whites dominant in most fields in America?
I am saying, Don, that the concept of white privilege is something that is used by people who have liberal privilege. They created the whole idea of white privilege because they have liberal privilege.
That's
Conservatives
not true,
have nothing to do with this.
Okay.
This is not. So I would argue with you that this is not about a leftist or a right-leaning thing. This is not about the political party. This is
Angela.
But white privilege isn't bound by party, Jeffrey. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It isn't by ideology. Matt, I need you. I'm sure you want to defend yourself. Go ahead.
I don't think I have anything to defend.
I just want to say
I think the funny thing is I was actually agreeing with Angela Rock. Was the irony of this whole thing.
I wasn't attacking you, Matt. I was just saying I'm seeing this happening. So I just wanted to point it out while it was happening. It wasn't an attack.
Yeah.
It wasn't.